Question 1. Strategic planning requires a careful evaluation of operational processes to enhance efficiency and resource allocation. For Aikoku Gakuen University, when considering process optimization to address budgetary constraints, which of the following approaches best aligns with its commitment to academic excellence and responsible governance? Option A. Outsourcing core academic support functions, such as library services and student counseling, to external vendors solely based on the lowest bid, without assessing the impact on service quality or data privacy. Option B. Aggressively seeking short-term, high-yield investment opportunities for university endowments, even if the underlying investments carry significant ethical concerns, to immediately boost revenue. Option C. Significantly increasing tuition fees without a corresponding improvement in educational resources or student services, citing the need to cover operational deficits. Option D. Implementing a phased reduction in non-essential administrative services and reallocating savings to direct academic support programs, following a thorough impact assessment on student and faculty needs. Correct answer is D. Implementing a phased reduction in non-essential administrative services and reallocating savings to direct academic support programs, following a thorough impact assessment on student and faculty needs. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term academic mission and ethical obligations to its students and faculty. The pressure to secure funding can lead to decisions that compromise the integrity of the educational experience or violate principles of responsible resource allocation. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any strategic planning for process optimization aligns with the Aikoku Gakuen University's core values and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of existing processes, identifying inefficiencies, and proposing optimizations that enhance student learning outcomes and faculty research support, while also considering financial sustainability. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of good governance expected of educational institutions. It prioritizes the core mission of the university over short-term financial gains. Specifically, it adheres to the implicit regulatory framework governing educational institutions in Japan, which emphasizes academic excellence, student welfare, and responsible financial management. This involves ensuring that any changes do not negatively impact the quality of education or create undue burdens on students and staff, and that all financial decisions are transparent and justifiable. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost-cutting, without considering the impact on educational quality, is ethically flawed. This would violate the implicit duty of care the university has towards its students and faculty, potentially leading to a decline in academic standards and research output. Such an approach could also contravene guidelines related to the responsible use of university funds, which are often subject to public scrutiny and specific reporting requirements. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes external funding opportunities without rigorous due diligence on the source or conditions attached would be professionally irresponsible. This could expose the university to reputational damage, conflicts of interest, or even legal complications if the funding source is found to be unethical or illegal. This would fail to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity and its standing within the community. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multi-stakeholder consultation, including faculty, students, and administrative staff. A thorough impact assessment should be conducted for any proposed changes, considering both financial and non-financial implications. All decisions must be grounded in the university's mission statement and adhere to relevant Japanese educational laws and ethical guidelines, ensuring transparency and accountability throughout the process. Question 2. The audit findings indicate that the current process for administering the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam is time-consuming and resource-intensive. To address this, what approach to process optimization would best uphold the integrity and fairness of the examination while seeking efficiency gains? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the entire examination lifecycle, from question development to result dissemination, identifying specific bottlenecks and areas for improvement through data analysis and stakeholder consultation, and proposing targeted, validated changes that maintain or enhance assessment validity and fairness. Option B. Implement a revised examination structure that reduces the number of questions by 20% across all sections, based on a preliminary assessment of question redundancy, without further validation of the remaining questions' assessment coverage. Option C. Outsource the complete redesign and administration of the entrance examination to a third-party educational services company, with minimal oversight from university faculty, to leverage their perceived expertise in operational efficiency. Option D. Develop and pilot a new, AI-driven automated grading system for all essay-based questions, utilizing a generic natural language processing model to significantly reduce grading time. The correct answer is B. Implement a revised examination structure that reduces the number of questions by 20% across all sections, based on a preliminary assessment of question redundancy, without further validation of the remaining questions' assessment coverage. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficiency with the fundamental principles of academic integrity and fairness, as mandated by the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations. The pressure to optimize processes, often driven by resource constraints or performance metrics, can inadvertently lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the examination. Careful judgment is required to identify and implement improvements that enhance efficiency without undermining the validity and fairness of the entrance exam. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the current examination process, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement through data analysis and stakeholder feedback, and then proposing and piloting changes that are aligned with the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam's stated objectives for assessing candidate aptitude and knowledge. This approach prioritizes the integrity of the assessment, ensuring that any process optimization serves to better achieve the exam's goals rather than merely reducing costs or time. Regulatory justification lies in adhering to the spirit and letter of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam guidelines, which implicitly demand a fair and accurate assessment of all candidates. Ethical considerations demand that the process be transparent and equitable. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the number of examination questions without a corresponding analysis of their impact on assessment validity would be ethically and regulatorily unsound. This would fail to ensure that the reduced set of questions still adequately measures the required competencies, potentially disadvantaging candidates who might have performed well on the original, more comprehensive assessment. Another incorrect approach, which involves automating the grading of subjective essay questions without human oversight or a robust, validated rubric, risks introducing bias and inconsistency, thereby violating the principle of fair assessment. This fails to meet the implicit requirement of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam to evaluate candidates based on their demonstrated understanding and critical thinking skills, which often require nuanced human judgment. A third incorrect approach, which involves outsourcing the entire examination development process to an external vendor without rigorous internal review and validation, risks losing institutional control over the quality and alignment of the exam content with the university's academic standards, potentially leading to an assessment that does not accurately reflect the skills and knowledge Aikoku Gakuen University seeks. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the examination's objectives and the relevant Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations. This should be followed by a thorough analysis of the current process, identifying specific areas for improvement. Proposed changes must be evaluated against their potential impact on assessment validity, fairness, and adherence to regulations. Piloting and iterative refinement, with feedback from educators and administrators, are crucial steps before full implementation. The ultimate goal is to enhance the examination's effectiveness and efficiency in a manner that upholds academic integrity and fairness. Question 3. Governance review demonstrates that the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam admissions process may be experiencing significant delays and resource misallocation. Which of the following approaches best addresses these findings while upholding the integrity of the examination and the university's commitment to fair assessment? Option A. Reduce the complexity of the essay portion of the entrance exam and shorten the duration of the written tests to speed up the evaluation timeline. Option B. Immediately increase the number of administrative staff involved in processing applications and expand the interview panel to expedite the review of all candidates. Option C. Conduct a detailed analysis of each stage of the current admissions process, gathering data on time spent, resources utilized, and decision-making points to identify specific areas for targeted improvement and efficiency gains. Option D. Implement a new, simplified scoring rubric for all application components without prior testing or validation to accelerate the grading process. The correct answer is C. Conduct a detailed analysis of each stage of the current admissions process, gathering data on time spent, resources utilized, and decision-making points to identify specific areas for targeted improvement and efficiency gains. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the university's stated commitment to academic integrity and the practical pressures of student retention and institutional reputation. The Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations, while not explicitly detailed here, would typically emphasize fairness, transparency, and the accurate assessment of candidate potential. A governance review highlighting potential inefficiencies in the admissions process necessitates a response that upholds these principles while also seeking improvement. Correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven evaluation of the admissions process to identify specific bottlenecks or areas of suboptimal resource allocation. This aligns with the overarching goal of process optimization, which aims to improve efficiency and effectiveness without compromising the integrity of the outcome. Specifically, this approach would involve analyzing the current steps, identifying areas where time or resources are disproportionately consumed, and proposing targeted improvements based on objective data. This is ethically sound as it seeks to enhance the fairness and accuracy of the admissions process, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated consistently and that the university selects the most suitable individuals based on merit, as implied by the rigor of an entrance examination. Regulatory adherence would focus on ensuring that any proposed changes do not inadvertently create biases or circumvent established academic standards for admission. An incorrect approach would be to implement broad, unexamined changes based on anecdotal evidence or a desire for immediate, superficial improvements. For instance, simply increasing the number of interviewers without a clear understanding of the current interview process's effectiveness or the interviewer's training could lead to inconsistent evaluations and a decline in the quality of assessment, potentially violating principles of fair evaluation. Another incorrect approach would be to reduce the scope of the examination or the depth of the assessment criteria without a thorough review of their academic necessity and relevance to the university's educational objectives. This could compromise the university's ability to accurately gauge candidate aptitude and could be seen as a failure to uphold the academic standards expected of an entrance examination, potentially contravening internal university regulations on academic assessment. Professionals tasked with process optimization in an academic setting must adopt a structured decision-making process. This involves clearly defining the problem, gathering objective data, analyzing the root causes of any identified inefficiencies, developing potential solutions, evaluating these solutions against established criteria, including academic integrity, fairness, and regulatory compliance, and implementing the most effective and ethical changes. Continuous monitoring and evaluation are also crucial to ensure that the optimized process remains effective and compliant. Question 4. The audit findings indicate that several administrative processes within Aikoku Gakuen University are experiencing significant delays, leading to increased student wait times for essential services and faculty frustration with administrative support. Considering the university's commitment to academic excellence and student welfare, which of the following represents the most appropriate initial step in addressing these audit findings? Option A. Prioritize cost-cutting measures within administrative departments to free up resources that can then be reallocated to address the identified delays. Option B. Dismiss the audit findings as a minor inconvenience, focusing resources on academic program development rather than administrative process improvements. Option C. Immediately implement a new, widely adopted software system for all administrative functions, assuming it will streamline operations based on its general reputation. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive review of existing administrative workflows, engaging with affected departments and student representatives to identify root causes of delays and collaboratively develop tailored solutions. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive review of existing administrative workflows, engaging with affected departments and student representatives to identify root causes of delays and collaboratively develop tailored solutions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the audit findings, while identifying potential inefficiencies, touch upon areas that require careful consideration of the Aikoku Gakuen University's specific operational context and established procedures. Simply implementing a generic process optimization without understanding the underlying reasons for current practices or the potential impact on academic integrity and student experience would be professionally unsound. The university's unique culture, existing technological infrastructure, and the specific needs of its students and faculty must be factored into any proposed changes. The correct approach involves a thorough diagnostic phase that goes beyond surface-level observations. This includes engaging with key stakeholders, such as faculty, administrative staff, and student representatives, to understand the rationale behind current processes and to identify genuine pain points. It requires a data-driven analysis of the identified inefficiencies, considering both quantitative and qualitative factors. The subsequent development of optimization strategies must be tailored to the university's specific environment, prioritizing solutions that enhance efficiency without compromising the quality of education, student support services, or adherence to any internal academic regulations or guidelines set forth by Aikoku Gakuen University. This aligns with the professional responsibility to act in the best interest of the institution and its stakeholders, ensuring that any changes are sustainable and beneficial. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement a standardized, off-the-shelf process improvement solution without adequate consultation or contextual analysis. This fails to acknowledge the specific operational nuances of Aikoku Gakuen University and could lead to unintended negative consequences, such as disrupting established academic workflows or alienating staff and students. Another incorrect approach would be to focus solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on service quality or the educational mission. This demonstrates a lack of holistic understanding and prioritizes a narrow metric over the broader objectives of the university. A third incorrect approach would be to dismiss the audit findings as mere bureaucratic hurdles, failing to recognize the potential for genuine improvement and the importance of continuous operational review. This exhibits a resistance to change and a disregard for the audit process, which is designed to identify areas for enhancement. Professionals facing such situations should employ a structured decision-making process. This begins with a comprehensive understanding of the audit findings and their implications within the specific context of Aikoku Gakuen University. It involves seeking clarification and additional information from the auditors and relevant internal departments. The next step is to conduct a thorough needs assessment, involving stakeholder consultation and data analysis, to validate the audit's observations and identify root causes. Based on this understanding, potential solutions should be brainstormed, evaluated for feasibility, impact, and alignment with the university's strategic goals and regulatory framework. Finally, a phased implementation plan with clear metrics for success and mechanisms for feedback and adjustment should be developed and executed. Question 5. The audit findings indicate that the current admissions process at Aikoku Gakuen University for the entrance examination is experiencing significant delays in applicant document verification, leading to a backlog and potential impact on timely communication with prospective students. To address this, what is the most appropriate strategy for process optimization? Option A. Implement a phased digital transformation of document submission and verification, incorporating robust data security protocols and system integration testing before full rollout. Option B. Reduce the number of verification checks performed on applicant documents to expedite the processing timeline. Option C. Outsource the entire document verification process to an external agency without establishing clear performance metrics or data security agreements. Option D. Immediately transition all applicant document handling to a cloud-based platform without prior assessment of its compliance with Japanese data privacy laws. The correct answer is A. Implement a phased digital transformation of document submission and verification, incorporating robust data security protocols and system integration testing before full rollout. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's operational efficiency with the integrity of its admissions process, all while adhering to the specific regulations governing university entrance exams in Japan, as stipulated by Aikoku Gakuen University's internal guidelines and relevant Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, MEXT directives. The pressure to improve process efficiency must not compromise fairness, transparency, or the validity of the examination results. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the current admissions process to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies, followed by the implementation of targeted improvements that enhance speed and accuracy, without compromising the core principles of a fair and secure examination. This aligns with the general principles of administrative efficiency encouraged by MEXT and the ethical obligation of Aikoku Gakuen University to conduct a fair and equitable admissions process. Specifically, it respects the need for robust data management and secure handling of applicant information, as implicitly required by data protection guidelines relevant to educational institutions in Japan. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on digitizing all application materials without a thorough risk assessment of data security and system compatibility would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to consider the potential for data breaches or system failures, which could compromise applicant privacy and the integrity of the examination. Another incorrect approach that involves outsourcing the entire admissions process to a third-party vendor, without stringent oversight and clear contractual obligations regarding data security and adherence to Aikoku Gakuen University's specific examination protocols would also be a failure. This neglects the university's ultimate responsibility for the admissions process and the potential for the vendor to not fully understand or comply with Japanese educational regulations. Finally, an approach that prioritizes speed by reducing the number of verification steps for applicant documents, even if it seems efficient, is professionally unacceptable. This directly undermines the integrity of the admissions process and could lead to unqualified candidates being admitted, violating the fundamental purpose of the entrance examination. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the regulatory landscape and institutional policies. This involves identifying the core objectives of the process, e.g., fair selection, operational efficiency, assessing risks associated with any proposed changes, and prioritizing solutions that demonstrably improve efficiency while upholding ethical standards and regulatory compliance. A phased implementation with pilot testing and continuous monitoring is crucial to ensure that process optimization does not inadvertently create new vulnerabilities or compromise the fairness of the examination. Question 6. The audit findings indicate several areas where administrative processes at Aikoku Gakuen University could be streamlined to improve efficiency. Considering the university's commitment to academic integrity and student support, which of the following strategies best balances the need for optimization with the preservation of core institutional values? Option A. Implement a comprehensive, system-wide overhaul of all identified administrative processes immediately to achieve maximum efficiency gains. Option B. Conduct pilot programs for proposed process changes in select departments, gather feedback, and then roll out successful optimizations incrementally across the university. Option C. Focus exclusively on automating administrative tasks to reduce personnel costs, without assessing the impact on student interaction or personalized support. Option D. Prioritize the fastest implementation of all recommended changes to demonstrate rapid progress, deferring detailed risk assessments and stakeholder consultations until after deployment. The correct answer is A. Implement a comprehensive, system-wide overhaul of all identified administrative processes immediately to achieve maximum efficiency gains. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the audit findings, while identifying potential inefficiencies, touch upon areas that require careful consideration of the Aikoku Gakuen University's established operational procedures and the ethical implications of rapid, potentially disruptive change. The university's commitment to academic excellence and student welfare, as enshrined in its foundational principles and operational guidelines, must be balanced against the drive for process optimization. A hasty or poorly implemented optimization strategy could inadvertently compromise the quality of education, student support services, or even lead to non-compliance with internal academic regulations. The correct approach involves a phased, data-driven implementation of process improvements, prioritizing those with the least potential for negative impact on core university functions and student experience. This approach is justified by the Aikoku Gakuen University's internal guidelines on academic governance and operational review, which emphasize a consultative and incremental method for significant procedural changes. Such a method ensures that all stakeholders, including faculty, administration, and student representatives, have an opportunity to provide input, thereby mitigating risks and fostering buy-in. This aligns with the university's ethical obligation to maintain a stable and effective learning environment. An incorrect approach of immediately implementing all recommended changes without further analysis or pilot testing would fail to respect the university's established operational framework and could lead to significant disruption. This would be a breach of the implicit ethical duty to ensure continuity of academic services and student support. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on cost reduction through automation without considering the impact on human interaction and personalized student support, would violate the university's stated commitment to holistic student development and could lead to a decline in student satisfaction and academic outcomes. A third incorrect approach, prioritizing speed of implementation over thorough risk assessment and stakeholder consultation, would disregard the university's internal protocols for change management and could result in unintended consequences that undermine the very processes being optimized. Professionals facing such situations should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the existing regulatory and ethical landscape of the institution. This involves identifying the core values and operational principles of Aikoku Gakuen University. Next, they should conduct a detailed risk assessment for each proposed optimization, considering potential impacts on academic quality, student welfare, and operational stability. Prioritization should then be based on a balance of potential benefits, feasibility, and risk mitigation. Finally, a phased implementation plan, incorporating pilot testing and continuous feedback loops from relevant stakeholders, is crucial for ensuring successful and ethically sound process optimization. Question 7. Compliance review shows that the Aikoku Gakuen University Entrance Examination Admissions Office is exploring new software to streamline the essay review process, aiming to significantly reduce the time spent by human reviewers. The proposed system would automatically score essays based on predefined linguistic and structural metrics, with human reviewers only intervening for applications flagged as borderline by the algorithm. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical considerations for the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance examination? Option A. Adopt the new software, but ensure that a significant percentage of essays, regardless of the automated score, are still subjected to a thorough qualitative review by experienced human evaluators to maintain a holistic assessment. Option B. Implement the new software, focusing on maximizing the reduction in human review time by setting a high threshold for automatic flagging, thereby processing applications more efficiently. Option C. Prioritize the speed of processing by relying primarily on the automated essay scoring system, with human review limited to only those applications that the system identifies as having critical errors in grammar or syntax. Option D. Delay the implementation of the new software until extensive independent validation confirms that the automated scoring system can perfectly replicate the nuanced qualitative judgments of experienced human reviewers across all essay types. The correct answer is B. Implement the new software, focusing on maximizing the reduction in human review time by setting a high threshold for automatic flagging, thereby processing applications more efficiently. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because the university's admissions process, while aiming for efficiency, must strictly adhere to the principles of fairness and equal opportunity as enshrined in the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance examination regulations. The pressure to optimize processing times can inadvertently lead to the overlooking of critical qualitative aspects of an applicant's profile, potentially disadvantaging certain candidates. Careful judgment is required to balance efficiency with the fundamental requirement of a thorough and equitable assessment. The correct approach involves a multifaceted review that integrates automated screening for objective criteria with a human-led qualitative assessment of subjective elements. This method is justified by the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance examination regulations, which emphasize a holistic evaluation of applicants. Specifically, the regulations mandate that, while efficiency in processing is desirable, it must not compromise the integrity of the assessment, which includes evaluating an applicant's potential beyond mere quantifiable metrics. This approach ensures that all aspects of an application are considered, aligning with the spirit of fair selection and the university's commitment to admitting diverse talent. An incorrect approach that relies solely on automated scoring of essays would fail to meet the regulatory requirements. This is because the regulations implicitly acknowledge that essay quality involves nuanced interpretation, creativity, and critical thinking that automated systems may not fully capture. Such an approach risks penalizing applicants with unique writing styles or unconventional but insightful arguments, thereby violating the principle of equitable assessment. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed by reducing the number of reviewers for qualitative assessments would also be a regulatory failure. The regulations, by stipulating a review process, imply a certain depth of scrutiny. Reducing the review pool without a corresponding adjustment in the depth of analysis per application would likely lead to superficial evaluations, potentially missing crucial indicators of an applicant's suitability, and thus contravening the spirit of thoroughness inherent in the examination framework. A third incorrect approach that focuses solely on optimizing the time taken to process applications, even if it means accepting a higher margin of error in initial screening, is ethically and regulatorily unsound. The Aikoku Gakuen University entrance examination regulations are designed to minimize errors and ensure that every applicant receives a fair evaluation. Accepting a higher error rate, even for the sake of speed, undermines the credibility of the admissions process and could lead to the rejection of deserving candidates or the acceptance of less qualified ones, violating the core principles of fairness and meritocracy. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and ethical principles. This involves identifying the core objectives of the admissions process, e.g., selecting qualified students, ensuring diversity, maintaining fairness, and then evaluating potential process optimizations against these objectives and the specific requirements of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance examination. A risk-based assessment should be conducted for any proposed change, considering how it might impact fairness, accuracy, and compliance. Regular audits and feedback mechanisms are crucial to ensure that optimized processes continue to meet regulatory standards and ethical expectations. Question 8. Upon reviewing the applications for the upcoming academic year, the admissions committee for the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam receives a letter of strong recommendation for a particular candidate from a highly respected and influential alumnus. The letter highlights the candidate's exceptional character and potential contributions to the university community, beyond what is evident in their academic transcripts and examination scores. How should the admissions committee proceed to ensure adherence to the university's entrance examination regulations and maintain the integrity of the selection process? Option A. Consider the alumnus's recommendation as a significant factor in the evaluation, potentially influencing the final decision, to acknowledge the alumnus's standing and foster positive relationships. Option B. Forward the alumnus's letter directly to the university's senior leadership for their guidance on how to best accommodate the recommendation without compromising the fairness of the entrance examination process. Option C. Evaluate the candidates solely based on their academic transcripts and examination scores, as stipulated by the university's entrance examination regulations, and disregard the alumnus's letter as it falls outside the defined objective criteria. Option D. Integrate the information from the alumnus's letter into the overall assessment, but only after independently verifying its claims against the established admission criteria and ensuring it does not introduce bias or preferential treatment. The correct answer is C. Evaluate the candidates solely based on their academic transcripts and examination scores, as stipulated by the university's entrance examination regulations, and disregard the alumnus's letter as it falls outside the defined objective criteria. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the university's established admission processes and the potential for external influence to compromise fairness and integrity. The admissions committee must navigate this delicate situation by adhering strictly to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations, which prioritize merit and objective evaluation. The correct approach involves a rigorous and impartial review of all applications, ensuring that any information provided by external parties is assessed solely for its relevance to the established admission criteria and does not introduce bias or undue influence. This aligns with the ethical principles of fairness and equal opportunity, fundamental to academic institutions. Specifically, the university's regulations likely mandate a standardized evaluation process that prevents preferential treatment based on personal connections or external endorsements. The focus must remain on the applicant's academic achievements, aptitude, and suitability as determined by the prescribed examination and documentation. An incorrect approach would be to grant undue weight to the recommendation from the influential alumnus without independent verification against the university's established criteria. This introduces bias and undermines the principle of meritocracy, potentially violating the spirit and letter of the university's admission regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the recommendation outright without considering if it contains relevant, objective information that might genuinely support an applicant's qualifications within the defined parameters. This could lead to overlooking a deserving candidate and demonstrates a lack of professional judgment in evaluating all available, relevant information. A further incorrect approach would be to seek to subtly influence the committee's decision based on the alumnus's request, even without explicit instruction. This constitutes an ethical breach by attempting to circumvent the established, impartial process. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established regulations and ethical guidelines. This involves 1. Understanding the specific rules and criteria of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam. 2. Objectively evaluating all application materials against these criteria. 3. Recognizing and mitigating potential sources of bias or undue influence. 4. Documenting the decision-making process clearly and transparently. 5. Consulting with superiors or relevant committees if ambiguity or ethical dilemmas arise. The primary goal is to uphold the integrity of the admissions process. Question 9. The audit findings indicate that the current student feedback process on assignments is time-consuming for faculty and could be streamlined. However, the university's charter emphasizes personalized guidance and constructive criticism as integral to student development, which approach best balances efficiency with these core academic values. Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the feedback process involving faculty and student representatives to identify specific bottlenecks and collaboratively develop solutions that enhance feedback quality and efficiency without compromising personalized guidance. Option B. Implement a new grading rubric that standardizes feedback points, allowing for quicker completion by faculty, and explore AI tools to generate initial draft feedback for faculty review. Option C. Significantly reduce the required length and detail of faculty feedback on all assignments to expedite the grading process. Option D. Automate the entire feedback generation process using pre-programmed responses based on common errors, eliminating faculty involvement in the final feedback delivery. The correct answer is B. Implement a new grading rubric that standardizes feedback points, allowing for quicker completion by faculty, and explore AI tools to generate initial draft feedback for faculty review. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the audit findings, while identifying potential inefficiencies, touch upon the core principles of academic integrity and the university's commitment to fostering a fair and equitable learning environment. The pressure to demonstrate process optimization must be balanced against the ethical obligation to uphold these foundational values. A hasty or purely data-driven approach without considering the qualitative impact on students and faculty could lead to unintended negative consequences, undermining the very purpose of the university. The correct approach involves a nuanced evaluation that prioritizes student learning and faculty well-being while seeking efficiency. This means understanding that optimization in an academic context is not solely about speed or cost reduction, but about enhancing the effectiveness of educational processes. It requires consulting with stakeholders, gathering feedback on the impact of proposed changes, and ensuring that any adjustments align with Aikoku Gakuen University's mission and educational philosophy. This aligns with the ethical duty of care owed to students and the professional responsibility to maintain high academic standards. An approach that focuses solely on reducing the time for grading, without considering the impact on the quality of feedback provided to students, is ethically flawed. This could lead to superficial assessments that do not adequately support student learning and development, potentially violating the implicit contract between the university and its students regarding the provision of meaningful education. An approach that prioritizes the implementation of new grading software based purely on vendor claims of efficiency, without pilot testing or faculty input, risks disrupting established pedagogical practices and potentially introducing errors or biases into the grading process. This disregards the professional judgment of faculty and the need for a smooth transition that supports, rather than hinders, effective teaching and learning. Furthermore, an approach that suggests automating the entire feedback process without human oversight fails to recognize the importance of personalized and constructive criticism in academic growth. This overlooks the ethical imperative to provide students with guidance that is tailored to their individual needs and development, a crucial aspect of higher education. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the audit findings and their potential implications. This involves identifying the core issues, considering the ethical principles at play, and then exploring solutions that are both efficient and aligned with the institution's mission and values. Stakeholder consultation, pilot testing, and a phased implementation strategy are crucial steps to ensure that process optimization enhances, rather than compromises, the quality of education and the student experience. Question 10. The audit findings indicate that the current admissions process at Aikoku Gakuen University is experiencing significant delays, leading to a backlog of applications and potential applicant dissatisfaction. To address this, a proposal has been put forth to streamline the initial screening of applications by implementing a more automated system that prioritizes candidates based on a narrower set of quantifiable metrics. This aims to significantly reduce the time spent on each application during the preliminary stages. Which of the following approaches best addresses the audit findings while upholding the principles of fair and rigorous university admissions? Option A. Develop and implement a revised admissions rubric that incorporates a broader range of qualitative and quantitative factors, ensuring all evaluators are trained on its consistent application, and pilot a phased introduction of technology to support, not replace, human judgment in the initial screening. Option B. Introduce a strict time limit for each reviewer to process applications, encouraging them to make quick decisions to clear the backlog, even if it means less in-depth assessment of individual applicant profiles. Option C. Delegate the initial screening responsibility to a smaller, dedicated team with a mandate to expedite reviews by focusing exclusively on standardized test scores and GPA, with minimal consideration for other application components. Option D. Immediately deploy an advanced AI-driven system to automatically filter applications based on a limited set of high-scoring academic achievements, thereby drastically reducing the review time per applicant. The correct answer is A. Develop and implement a revised admissions rubric that incorporates a broader range of qualitative and quantitative factors, ensuring all evaluators are trained on its consistent application, and pilot a phased introduction of technology to support, not replace, human judgment in the initial screening. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the university's desire for efficiency and the ethical imperative to maintain academic integrity and fairness in the admissions process. The audit findings suggest a potential for bias or a lack of transparency, which could undermine the credibility of Aikoku Gakuen University's admissions. Careful judgment is required to balance operational improvements with adherence to established ethical guidelines and university policies. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions process to identify specific bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the development and implementation of standardized, objective criteria and transparent procedures. This approach ensures that any process optimization is grounded in fairness, equity, and compliance with Aikoku Gakuen University's stated admission principles. It prioritizes the integrity of the selection process, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated consistently and without undue influence. This aligns with the ethical obligation to treat all applicants with respect and to uphold the university's reputation for academic excellence and fairness. An approach that focuses solely on reducing the time taken for application review without considering the impact on the thoroughness of evaluation is ethically flawed. Risks overlooking crucial aspects of an applicant's profile, potentially leading to unfair rejections or admissions based on superficial criteria. This could violate the university's commitment to a holistic review and its duty to select the most suitable candidates. Another incorrect approach would be to implement changes based on anecdotal evidence or the preferences of a few individuals without a data-driven or policy-backed rationale. This lacks objectivity and can introduce personal biases into the admissions process, which is a clear ethical failure. It undermines the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants. Furthermore, an approach that bypasses established university governance or consultation processes when implementing changes is problematic. This can lead to inconsistencies, lack of buy-in from stakeholders, and potential non-compliance with internal regulations or external expectations regarding admissions procedures. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's mission and values, a thorough assessment of the current process, consultation with relevant stakeholders, admissions committee, faculty, administration, and the development of solutions that are both efficient and ethically sound, ensuring transparency and fairness. Question 11. Examination of the data shows that the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam admissions process has several stages that appear to be time-consuming. To improve efficiency, the admissions committee is considering several potential changes. Which of the following proposed changes best aligns with the absolute priority of adhering to the regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines specified for the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam? Option A. Conducting a thorough review of the current application processing workflow to identify redundant steps and opportunities for digital integration, ensuring all proposed modifications are explicitly compliant with the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations before implementation. Option B. Introducing a preliminary online questionnaire to filter out applicants who do not meet certain perceived academic thresholds, without explicit authorization from the exam's governing body. Option C. Implementing a new digital platform for applicant document verification that automates cross-referencing with external databases, provided it can be deployed quickly. Option D. Developing a revised timeline for application review that prioritizes candidates based on preliminary assessment of extracurricular achievements, even if this deviates slightly from the established order of review. The correct answer is C. Implementing a new digital platform for applicant document verification that automates cross-referencing with external databases, provided it can be deployed quickly. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the university's desire to streamline its admissions process and the absolute priority of adhering to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations. The core of the challenge lies in identifying and implementing process improvements without compromising the integrity, fairness, and legal compliance of the examination. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between genuine optimization and actions that could inadvertently violate established rules or ethical standards. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions workflow to identify bottlenecks or inefficiencies that can be addressed through procedural adjustments, technological enhancements, or better resource allocation, all while strictly adhering to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations. This approach is professionally sound because it prioritizes compliance with the governing framework. Any proposed change must be vetted against the specific rules and guidelines of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam to ensure it does not alter the examination's fairness, accessibility, or the validity of its outcomes. This aligns with the ethical duty of professionals to uphold the integrity of the processes they manage and to act in accordance with established legal and regulatory requirements. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering regulatory impact would be professionally unacceptable. For instance, implementing a new online submission system without ensuring it meets the specific data security and privacy requirements mandated by the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This could lead to data breaches, compromise applicant confidentiality, and violate the spirit of fair access. Another incorrect approach would be to automate the initial screening of applications based on criteria not explicitly permitted by the exam regulations. This could introduce bias, exclude qualified candidates unfairly, and undermine the principle of merit-based selection, thereby violating the exam's established fairness protocols. Professionals tasked with optimizing such processes should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the governing regulations. This involves consulting the official Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam documentation, seeking clarification from relevant authorities if needed, and conducting a risk assessment for any proposed change. The framework should then involve identifying potential improvements, evaluating each against the regulatory requirements, and prioritizing those that enhance efficiency without compromising compliance or fairness. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are also crucial to ensure that implemented changes remain compliant and effective over time. Question 12. Assessment of a candidate's ethical judgment when approached by a prospective Aikoku Gakuen University student seeking specific answers to upcoming entrance examination questions, and the appropriate response within the context of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exams regulatory framework. Option A. Suggest the student seek clarification from official university admissions resources regarding the exam format and content. Option B. Discreetly inform the student that such requests are inappropriate and could lead to severe penalties. Option C. Provide the student with a general overview of the exam's subject areas without revealing specific questions or answers. Option D. Refuse to provide any information related to the exam questions and advise the student on ethical study methods. The correct answer is D. Refuse to provide any information related to the exam questions and advise the student on ethical study methods. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The university entrance exam, Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam, is designed to evaluate a candidate's genuine understanding and capabilities. Introducing external, unauthorized assistance fundamentally undermines this purpose and violates the principles of fair competition and honest evaluation. The correct approach involves upholding the integrity of the examination process by refusing to provide or facilitate unauthorized assistance. This aligns with the core ethical principles of academic institutions, which prioritize honesty, fairness, and the accurate assessment of individual merit. Specifically, the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations, as a governing framework for admissions, implicitly or explicitly prohibit any form of academic dishonesty. Providing assistance would constitute a breach of these regulations, potentially leading to severe consequences for both the student and the individual offering the help, including disqualification from the exam and reputational damage. Furthermore, it violates the ethical obligation to ensure a level playing field for all candidates. An incorrect approach of providing the student with answers or hints directly contravenes the examination's purpose and the university's academic integrity policies. This action would be considered academic misconduct, a serious ethical and regulatory violation. It fosters an environment of dishonesty and devalues the achievements of students who prepare diligently and ethically. Another incorrect approach of ignoring the student's request without addressing the underlying issue fails to uphold the university's responsibility to maintain academic standards. While not actively assisting in cheating, it passively allows for the potential for misconduct to occur or to be perceived as acceptable. This inaction can erode trust in the examination system. A third incorrect approach of reporting the student to the examination authorities without first attempting to understand the student's situation or offering guidance on ethical conduct might be seen as overly punitive and lacking in professional discretion, though the primary ethical failure remains the student's request for unauthorized assistance. A professional reasoning process should involve recognizing the ethical dilemma, understanding the relevant university regulations and ethical codes, and choosing the course of action that best upholds academic integrity and fairness. This typically involves refusing the unethical request and, where appropriate, guiding the individual towards ethical study practices, or reporting the request through established university channels if the situation warrants. Question 13. Which approach would be most appropriate for a prospective student preparing for the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam who is feeling overwhelmed by the difficulty of the material and is aware of rumors about students obtaining advanced knowledge of exam content from unofficial sources? Option A. Utilize official study guides, attend university-sponsored preparatory workshops, consult with Aikoku Gakuen University admissions or academic advisors for guidance on effective preparation strategies. Option B. Actively seek out and engage with current Aikoku Gakuen University students or external tutors who claim to have insights into the exam's specific content or format. Option C. Attempt to find and purchase leaked past examination papers or unofficial study materials that promise guaranteed success on the exam. Option D. Focus solely on reviewing general academic subjects without seeking any specific guidance or clarification related to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam's unique requirements or style. Correct answer is B. Actively seek out and engage with current Aikoku Gakuen University students or external tutors who claim to have insights into the exam's specific content or format. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a competitive entrance exam, such as the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam, can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. The university's regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines are designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment process, making adherence to these principles paramount. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation ethically and in compliance with the established rules. The correct approach involves a student seeking clarification and additional resources through legitimate channels, such as academic advisors or official study materials provided by Aikoku Gakuen University. This aligns with the university's guidelines that promote honest academic endeavor and discourage any form of academic misconduct. By utilizing approved methods for preparation, the student upholds the principles of fairness and integrity central to the examination process. This approach demonstrates a commitment to personal growth and learning within the established academic framework. An incorrect approach that involves seeking unauthorized assistance from current students or external tutors who claim to have access to past exam questions or confidential information directly violates the spirit and letter of academic integrity policies. This constitutes academic dishonesty, which can lead to severe penalties, including disqualification from the entrance exam and potential blacklisting from future academic pursuits. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to access or share exam content illegally, is a serious breach of trust and likely contravenes specific university regulations and potentially broader legal statutes concerning intellectual property and examination security. Such actions undermine the credibility of the entire examination system and are ethically reprehensible. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and adherence to institutional regulations. This involves understanding the university's code of conduct, identifying potential ethical dilemmas, and actively seeking guidance from authorized university personnel when faced with uncertainty or pressure. The framework should emphasize the long-term consequences of unethical behavior, including damage to reputation and academic standing, and reinforce the value of honest effort and legitimate preparation. Question 14. Implementation of a special examination arrangement for an applicant to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam who claims to have a sudden, severe family emergency requiring their immediate attention on the examination day, but has not provided prior notification or documentation. The invigilator is aware of the applicant's distress and the potential impact on their performance. Option A. Advise the applicant to withdraw from the examination and reapply for the next academic year, as their situation prevents them from participating under standard conditions. Option B. Provide the applicant with a brief break and some calming words, then instruct them to proceed with the examination as scheduled, as no exceptions are permitted on the examination day. Option C. Inform the applicant that no special arrangements can be made without prior notification and documentation, as per university regulations, but offer to contact the admissions office on their behalf to explain the situation and inquire about potential next steps or alternative examination dates, while ensuring the integrity of the current examination session. Option D. Allow the applicant to take the examination with a slightly extended time limit, assuming their distress will impact their pace, without consulting the university. The correct answer is C. Inform the applicant that no special arrangements can be made without prior notification and documentation, as per university regulations, but offer to contact the admissions office on their behalf to explain the situation and inquire about potential next steps or alternative examination dates, while ensuring the integrity of the current examination session. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's personal circumstances and the academic integrity standards expected by Aikoku Gakuen University. The university's entrance examination regulations are designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment for all applicants. Navigating this situation requires a delicate balance between empathy for the student's difficulties and strict adherence to the examination's rules. The correct approach involves a direct and transparent communication with the university's admissions office, providing all necessary documentation to support the student's request for accommodation. This aligns with Aikoku Gakuen University's commitment to fairness and its established procedures for handling special circumstances. The university's regulations, while emphasizing academic rigor, typically include provisions for reasonable accommodations for applicants facing documented challenges, provided these do not compromise the integrity of the examination. This approach upholds the principle of equal opportunity while respecting the examination's validity. An incorrect approach would be to allow the student to proceed with the examination without informing the university, hoping the situation goes unnoticed. This violates the principle of academic integrity and potentially misleads the admissions committee about the student's readiness or circumstances. It also fails to leverage the university's established procedures for addressing such issues. Another incorrect approach would be to provide the student with unauthorized assistance during the examination, such as hints or direct answers. This constitutes academic dishonesty, directly contravening the core principles of the entrance examination and Aikoku Gakuen University's ethical standards. Such an action would invalidate the student's application and could have severe repercussions for both the student and the invigilator. A further incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's request outright without proper consideration or consultation with the university. This demonstrates a lack of empathy and a failure to follow established protocols for handling special circumstances, potentially denying a deserving student a fair opportunity due to a misunderstanding or rigid interpretation of rules, without exploring available avenues for accommodation. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Understanding the university's specific regulations regarding examinations and special accommodations. 2. Assessing the student's situation and the validity of their request. 3. Communicating transparently with the relevant university authorities. 4. Following established procedures for seeking or granting accommodations. 5. Prioritizing academic integrity and fairness for all applicants. Question 15. Compliance review shows that an applicant to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam has submitted an application form with a section for extracurricular activities left blank, and the applicant has not provided any supplementary documentation to explain this omission. The admissions officer is aware that the university's guidelines for the entrance exam state that all sections of the application must be completed or accompanied by a written explanation for any omissions. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions officer to take? Option A. Forward the application to the admissions committee for a decision without further inquiry, as the committee can address any issues. Option B. Immediately reject the application due to the incomplete submission, as per the university's guidelines. Option C. Contact the applicant to request clarification and an explanation for the blank section, and if necessary, allow for the submission of supplementary documentation before making a decision. Option D. Accept the application as is, assuming the applicant had no relevant extracurricular activities to report. The correct answer is B. Immediately reject the application due to the incomplete submission, as per the university's guidelines. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the practicalities of managing student applications, particularly when dealing with potentially incomplete or misleading information. The core professional challenge lies in ensuring fair and transparent admissions processes while adhering to Aikoku Gakuen University's specific entrance examination regulations. A hasty decision based on incomplete information could lead to an unfair outcome for an applicant or a breach of the university's own established procedures. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based review of the applicant's documentation against the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations. This means verifying the authenticity and completeness of all submitted materials, including any supplementary documents or explanations provided by the applicant. If discrepancies or omissions are found, the university's established protocol for handling such situations, as outlined in its internal guidelines for the entrance examination, must be followed. This protocol likely includes procedures for requesting clarification or additional evidence from the applicant and a defined process for the admissions committee to make a final determination based on the complete set of facts and the university's stated criteria. This upholds the principle of fairness and ensures that decisions are made in accordance with the established rules, preventing arbitrary rejections or approvals. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application based on the initial observation of missing information, without allowing the applicant an opportunity to rectify the situation or provide context. This fails to adhere to the procedural fairness expected in admissions and may violate implicit or explicit guidelines within the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam framework that allow for minor administrative oversights to be corrected. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the missing information and proceed with the application as if it were complete. This compromises the integrity of the admissions process by not applying the stated requirements uniformly and could lead to the admission of a candidate who does not meet the full criteria, potentially setting a precedent for future applications. Finally, accepting the application without proper verification of all required components, even if the applicant claims it was an oversight, undermines the thoroughness expected in the admissions review and could be seen as a deviation from the university's commitment to a rigorous selection process. Professionals in university admissions must adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to institutional regulations, procedural fairness, and thorough verification. This involves understanding the specific requirements of the entrance examination, identifying any deviations, and following established protocols for addressing these deviations. The process should be transparent, allowing for due process for the applicant, and the final decision should be justifiable based on the university's stated criteria and regulations. Question 16. During the evaluation of an applicant's submitted academic transcripts for the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam, it is noted that the reported grades for 2 core subjects from their previous institution appear significantly higher than the average performance in other subjects, and there is no accompanying explanation for this variance. According to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam guideline, what is the most appropriate initial step to ensure a fair and compliant evaluation? Option A. Immediately reject the applicant's application due to the suspicious nature of the grade discrepancies. Option B. Directly contact the applicant to request a detailed explanation and any supporting documentation for the grade discrepancies. Option C. Consult with other admissions committee members to collectively decide whether to ignore the discrepancies. Option D. Proceed with the evaluation, assuming the grades are accurate, to avoid delaying the admissions process. The correct answer is B. Directly contact the applicant to request a detailed explanation and any supporting documentation for the grade discrepancies. Explanation. During the evaluation of an applicant's academic record for the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam, a critical challenge arises when discrepancies are found in the submitted transcripts. The university's admissions policy, as outlined in its official guidelines, mandates strict adherence to the accuracy and completeness of all submitted documentation. Failure to verify or address such discrepancies could lead to an unfair assessment of the applicant's qualifications, potentially admitting a candidate who does not meet the established academic standards or unfairly rejecting a deserving candidate. This scenario demands careful judgment to balance the need for thoroughness with the principle of fairness. The correct approach involves a systematic and transparent process of addressing the discrepancies. This entails directly contacting the applicant to request clarification and supporting documentation for the inconsistencies. This method aligns with the university's commitment to a fair and objective evaluation process, as stipulated in its admissions regulations, which emphasize the importance of verifiable information. Ethically, it upholds the principle of due process for the applicant, ensuring they have an opportunity to rectify any errors or provide necessary context before a final decision is made. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the discrepancies and proceed with the evaluation based on the incomplete or potentially inaccurate information. This violates the university's admissions policy regarding documentation accuracy and undermines the integrity of the selection process. It also fails to provide the applicant with a fair opportunity to present their case, which is an ethical failing. Another incorrect approach is to immediately disqualify the applicant without seeking further information. While accuracy is paramount, the university's guidelines also imply a process of due diligence. This hasty disqualification bypasses the opportunity for clarification and may result in the rejection of a qualified candidate due to an easily resolvable issue, thus demonstrating a lack of procedural fairness. A further incorrect approach is to make assumptions about the nature of the discrepancies without verification. This introduces subjective bias into the evaluation, which is contrary to the objective standards expected in university admissions. It also risks misinterpreting the applicant's academic record, leading to an inaccurate assessment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's admissions policies and ethical guidelines. When discrepancies arise, the professional should first identify the nature and significance of the inconsistency. Then, they should consult the relevant policies to determine the prescribed procedure for handling such issues. The default action should be to seek clarification from the applicant through official channels, providing them with a reasonable opportunity to respond. Only after exhausting these avenues, and if the discrepancies remain unresolved or indicate a deliberate misrepresentation, should a decision be made to reject the application, always in accordance with the established university procedures. Question 17. The evaluation methodology shows that the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam requires examiners to assess written responses based on a predefined rubric that emphasizes analytical depth, logical coherence, and adherence to the prompt's specific requirements. Considering this, which approach best aligns with the regulatory framework for conducting this examination? Option A. Introducing personal interpretations of what constitutes good writing or analytical depth that may differ from the explicit definitions provided in the rubric. Option B. Strictly applying each criterion of the predefined rubric to the candidate's written response, ensuring that the assessment reflects the demonstrated analytical depth, logical coherence, and adherence to the prompt as specified. Option C. Focusing on the fluency and creativity of the writing, while giving less weight to the strict adherence to the prompt's specific requirements if the writing is otherwise engaging. Option D. Prioritizing a candidate's perceived future academic potential and overall impression of their writing style, even if some rubric points are not fully met. The correct answer is D. Prioritizing a candidate's perceived future academic potential and overall impression of their writing style, even if some rubric points are not fully met. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the university entrance exam's regulatory framework, specifically the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam guidelines, mandates strict adherence to its established evaluation methodology. Misinterpreting or deviating from this methodology, even with good intentions, can lead to incorrect assessment of candidates and potential challenges to the exam's integrity. The core of the challenge lies in accurately applying the specified criteria for evaluating written responses, ensuring fairness and consistency across all applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and direct application of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exams stated evaluation criteria for written submissions. This means meticulously reviewing the candidate's response against each defined rubric point, focusing on the depth of analysis, clarity of expression, and relevance to the prompt, as outlined in the exam's official guidelines. This approach is correct because it directly aligns with the regulatory framework, ensuring that the evaluation is objective, transparent, and consistent with the university's stated academic standards. Adhering to the established methodology is paramount for maintaining the validity and fairness of the entrance examination process. An incorrect approach would be to introduce external evaluation standards or personal biases not explicitly sanctioned by the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam guidelines. Instance, prioritizing a candidate's perceived potential over their demonstrated performance in the written response, or focusing on stylistic elements that are not part of the official rubric, represents a failure to comply with the regulatory framework. Such deviations undermine the standardized nature of the exam and can lead to arbitrary or unfair assessments, violating the principles of regulatory compliance and ethical examination practices. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook specific criteria outlined in the evaluation methodology, such as the requirement for evidence-based reasoning, in favor of a more general impression of the candidate's writing ability. This selective application of the rubric is a direct contravention of the exam's established procedures. Professionals tasked with evaluating exam responses should adopt a decision-making process that begins with a comprehensive review of the relevant regulatory framework and evaluation guidelines. This should be followed by a systematic application of each criterion to the candidate's work, documenting the assessment against each point. Any ambiguities or potential deviations should be resolved by referring back to the official guidelines or seeking clarification from the examination board, rather than making subjective judgments. The ultimate goal is to ensure that the evaluation is a faithful and objective reflection of the candidate's performance as measured by the university's defined standards. Question 18. Performance analysis shows a pattern of unusually high scores on practice entrance exams among a cohort of students who have recently enrolled in a preparatory course offered by a third-party institution. One specific student from this cohort, who has consistently scored in the average range on previous internal assessments, suddenly achieves a near-perfect score on a mock exam administered by Aikoku Gakuen University, using questions that bear a striking resemblance to those used in the preparatory course's final assessment. The invigilator also noted the student appeared unusually anxious and was observed looking towards the back of the examination hall multiple times during the test. What is the most appropriate initial course of action for the Aikoku Gakuen University Examination Board to take in this situation? Strictly adhering to the university's academic integrity framework and examination regulations. Option A. Consult with the preparatory course institution to understand their teaching methods and assessment strategies to determine if there is any overlap that could explain the student's performance. Option B. Conduct a confidential, preliminary review of the student's performance data and the preparatory course's assessment materials to identify any potential irregularities before any formal action is taken. Option C. Issue a warning to the student about maintaining academic integrity during the examination and monitor their performance more closely in future assessments. Option D. Immediately disqualify the student from the entrance examination and initiate disciplinary proceedings based on the observed anomalies and the invigilator's report. The correct answer is D. Immediately disqualify the student from the entrance examination and initiate disciplinary proceedings based on the observed anomalies and the invigilator's report. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams can lead students to seek unfair advantages, and it is the responsibility of university staff to uphold the integrity of the examination process. Careful judgment is required to identify and address potential breaches of academic honesty without unfairly penalizing students. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation based on concrete evidence, adhering strictly to the Aikoku Gakuen University's established academic integrity policies and examination regulations. This approach prioritizes fairness, due process, and the principle of innocent until proven guilty. It requires gathering all relevant information, providing the student with an opportunity to respond, and making a decision based solely on the evidence and the university's established rules. This aligns with the ethical obligation to maintain a fair and equitable academic environment and the regulatory requirement to follow documented procedures for handling academic misconduct. An incorrect approach that involves immediate disciplinary action without a proper investigation fails to uphold the principles of due process and fairness. It risks penalizing a student based on suspicion rather than evidence, which is a violation of ethical conduct and potentially university regulations that mandate a formal investigation process. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the observed behavior due to potential reputational damage, directly contravenes the university's duty to maintain academic standards and uphold its own regulations. This inaction allows for potential academic dishonesty to go unaddressed, undermining the credibility of the entrance examination and the university itself. A third incorrect approach, which is to consult with other faculty members for informal advice without initiating a formal process, bypasses the established procedures for handling academic misconduct. While collaboration can be beneficial, it must occur within the framework of official university policy to ensure that any subsequent actions are procedurally sound and legally defensible. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the potential issue, consulting relevant university policies and regulations, gathering objective evidence, conducting a fair and impartial investigation that includes providing the student with an opportunity to be heard, and then making a decision based on the findings and established procedures. This systematic approach ensures that actions taken are consistent, ethical, and compliant with all applicable rules. Question 19. System analysis indicates that the Aikoku Gakuen University Entrance Exam Committee is reviewing applications. A committee member receives an unsolicited letter from a respected former faculty member strongly recommending a particular applicant, highlighting their potential beyond what is evident in their submitted academic records. The committee member is aware that this applicant's scores are borderline for admission. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam? Option A. The committee member should advocate for the applicant's admission to the admissions committee, emphasizing the value of the former faculty member's recommendation and suggesting a slight adjustment to the admission threshold for this specific case. Option B. The committee member should discreetly inform the applicant's family about the letter and suggest ways they can further support the application through additional documentation or personal appeals. Option C. The committee member should present the letter to the full admissions committee for consideration as supplementary information, ensuring all committee members are aware of its existence and content, and then proceed with the evaluation based strictly on the established examination criteria and the applicant's formal submission. Option D. The committee member should disregard the letter entirely and proceed with the evaluation solely based on the applicant's submitted materials, without mentioning the letter to anyone on the committee. The correct answer is C. The committee member should present the letter to the full admissions committee for consideration as supplementary information, ensuring all committee members are aware of its existence and content, and then proceed with the evaluation based strictly on the established examination criteria and the applicant's formal submission. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in navigating the ethical and regulatory landscape of university admissions, specifically concerning the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam. The core difficulty lies in balancing the university's stated commitment to meritocracy with the potential for undue influence or preferential treatment, which could undermine the integrity of the selection process. Maintaining fairness and transparency is paramount to upholding the reputation of the institution and ensuring that all applicants are evaluated on their own merits, as per the established examination guidelines. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the published examination regulations and guidelines of Aikoku Gakuen University. This means ensuring that all admissions decisions are based solely on the objective criteria outlined in the exam syllabus and evaluation rubrics. Any deviation from these established procedures, such as considering external recommendations that are not part of the formal application process or are not explicitly permitted by the university's admissions policy, would be a violation. The ethical imperative is to treat all candidates equally and to prevent any perception of bias or favoritism, thereby upholding the principle of fair competition. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that involves prioritizing a candidate based on a personal connection or a recommendation from a prominent figure, even if that figure is an alumnus or a respected member of the community, is ethically unsound and likely violates the spirit, if not the letter, of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations. Such an action introduces subjective bias and undermines the meritocratic principles the university aims to uphold. It creates an uneven playing field and erodes trust in the admissions process. Another incorrect approach would be to subtly alter the evaluation criteria for a specific candidate to ensure their admission, even if they do not fully meet the standard requirements. This is a direct contravention of the established academic standards and assessment protocols. It is a form of academic dishonesty that compromises the integrity of the examination and the qualifications of the admitted students. Furthermore, an approach that involves withholding information about the examination process or its evaluation standards from certain candidates while providing it to others would be discriminatory and unethical. Transparency is a cornerstone of fair examination practices. Any action that creates an information asymmetry that disadvantages some applicants is unacceptable. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions must operate within a strict framework of regulations and ethical codes. When faced with situations that could compromise fairness or integrity, the decision-making process should involve 1. Thoroughly understanding and referencing the specific regulations and guidelines of the institution, in this case, Aikoku Gakuen University Entrance Exam. 2. Identifying the core principles of fairness, transparency, and meritocracy that underpin the admissions process. 3. Evaluating all potential actions against these regulations and principles. 4. Prioritizing objective criteria and established procedures over subjective influences or personal biases. 5. Seeking clarification from relevant authorities within the university if there is any ambiguity regarding the application of rules. 6. Documenting all decisions and the rationale behind them to ensure accountability. Question 20. Compliance review shows a proctor at the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam observed a candidate discreetly looking at notes concealed within their sleeve during the mathematics section. The proctor is aware of the university's strict policy against any form of unauthorized assistance. What is the most appropriate course of action for the proctor to take in this situation? Strictly adhering to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations. Option A. Immediately confiscate the candidate's examination paper and escort them out of the examination hall. Option B. Ignore the observation to avoid disrupting the examination environment and potentially causing distress to the candidate. Option C. Discreetly inform the candidate that their actions are being observed and instruct them to cease immediately. Then continue monitoring. Option D. Document the observation and report it to the chief invigilator or designated examination authority for further investigation and action according to university policy. The correct answer is A. Immediately confiscate the candidate's examination paper and escort them out of the examination hall. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires navigating the ethical considerations of academic integrity within the specific context of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam regulations. The core tension lies between the university's commitment to a fair and unbiased assessment and the potential for external influence to compromise that fairness. A deep understanding of the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam's specific guidelines on academic integrity and the prohibition of unauthorized assistance is paramount. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the Aikoku Gakuen University entrance exam's established procedures for handling potential academic misconduct. This means reporting the observed behavior to the designated examination authority within the university without delay, allowing them to investigate and apply the university's defined disciplinary measures. This aligns with the ethical obligation to uphold the integrity of the examination process and ensures that any disciplinary actions are taken according to the university's established rules, thus maintaining fairness for all candidates. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the observed behavior. This failure to act directly undermines the principle of academic integrity, as it allows a potential breach of examination rules to go unaddressed, thereby disadvantaging honest candidates and compromising the validity of the exam results. Another incorrect approach would be to confront the candidate directly or attempt to resolve the issue independently. This bypasses the university's established protocols and could lead to an escalation of the situation. Potential accusations of bias or an inconsistent application of disciplinary measures, all of which are contrary to the structured and fair examination environment that Aikoku Gakuen University aims to maintain. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established institutional policies and ethical guidelines. This involves recognizing potential breaches, understanding the university's specific regulations regarding academic integrity, and acting through the designated reporting channels. The focus should always be on preserving the fairness and credibility of the examination process, rather than on personal judgment or informal resolution.